Creative Assembly started the Sagas series back in 2018 with Thrones of Britannia. The aim was to publish smaller, almost spin-off Total War games to be able to pinpoint and direct a more specific time period, or even just base it off an individual war, which is what we're kind of seeing with this upcoming game. It's safe to say though that Thrones of Britannia, whilst it was a good Total War game, it wasn't really received brilliantly. There wasn't anything groundbreaking new added to it like the mainline new Total War games, but CA seems to still be pushing this Saga series, and the next iteration looks to expand upon it even further. With the news about their game Total War Sagas Troy, it seems like it's about to change everything. I'm not sure what I did at the last Three Kingdoms press junket, but CA, I did cry last night that I didn't get my hands on Troy. I have taken it very personally, and I do hold grudges of the highest magnitude. Seriously, yeah, once this lockdown is over, CA, if you want a boxing match, I'm all ears. But this video isn't just about Epic Games, it's also about the future of the Total War franchise in general, a franchise that I have loved and I'm happy to put in my top 5 game franchises of all time. But I'm sure the main reason most of you clicked on this video is to talk about the Epic Games news that has come out. And this is a massive move from the guys at Epic. Anyone who is unaware, Creative Assembly announced that they are releasing Total War Troy exclusively on the Epic Games Store for the first 12 months. But here's the kicker. It's free for the first 24 hours. And if you get it in the first 24 hours, you can keep it forever, for free. A Total War game, which, I might add, CA is now a AAA company. That is a free game upon release. That has never been done before in this sort of way. I mentioned this on my Twitter because straight after the announcement, boy, I was not quite sure how to take it. I mean, it's on Epic Games exclusive, but it's free? Of course, there was Backlash, which seems to be a bit of a theme with these Epic Store exclusive games, and I can sort of understand that. I mean, the more Epic buys up IPs and throws millions at keeping games on their own platform, it will always anger people. You can't make everyone happy. And it has been a proven fact in the history of humans that we don't like to be told what to do or forced what to do, and specifically in this situation, where to play our games. It would probably help if Epic spent a bit more time fixing their own platform. That might lessen the anger a little bit, but this just seems to be the way Epic is going. And I don't think stepping back in context is always such a terrible thing. But one of the first worries from Total War fans is the lack of modding. Mods have always been a massive part of the franchise, and in fact some could argue it's even saved some games on multiple occasions. Yet with the release of Total War Troy on Epic Games exclusively for the first year and not on Steam, that means the workshop will not be available. In an official statement from CA, modding will, yes, be possible in the game, but not on release. There won't be any modding tools that you can get your hands on once the game comes out. Of course, eventually you'll be able to, but it ain't coming anytime soon. They do say in their statement that they have a deal with Steam in their previous games that they've released, that the modding usually comes out about a month later after the releases of the games that they've announced previously. But since it's on Epic Games for the first year, are we really going to get mods at all for the first year? I think that's something the only time could tell, and speculating on that probably isn't the most useful thing. To be fair to Creative Assembly, they have put out a very clear and well-written statement talking about their choice to do this and to put it on Epic Games and why such thing has happened. It was stated that Epic actually came to Creative Assembly for this cooperation, for a deal to make Total War Troy available for a year, exclusively on their store. And while CA claim it wasn't just a choice that solely came down to the money, and it was actually more of an experiment for the Total War franchise, I think it's clear to anyone that actually this is just a safe option. Is that a bad thing? Well, I guess that comes down to your opinion on the Epic Games Store itself, but as a business decision, that is smart as hell. There's no risk to releasing the game now. Surely that's what every company strives for. As much reward and as little risk as possible. They have guaranteed money already, and judging by the money that Epic has been throwing at developers in the past, I'm sure it ain't nothing to be sniffed at. Additionally, Creative Assembly don't have to worry if the game undersells or oversells or what happens to it at all. They can only win off this. I've seen a number of people jumping at the conclusion that this is a red flag straight away, that CA are putting their hands up and showing that they have no faith in the title, and that's what this is explaining, but I'm not sure it's as deep as that. I always think it's the most obvious and logical answer. And in this case, the most obvious and logical answer is not that CA have no faith in it and they don't think it's going to do well. It's just they're playing it safe. They're making a smart business decision. Nothing more, nothing less. And whether you think that's anti-consumer is a different point, but for them as a business, you've got to understand that that's the safest way that they can go. In their statement, CA said they will reach more of an audience. And yes, this sort of does fit the narrative that they've been going along with for a while now. For example, they wanted to break into the Chinese market a while ago, so they made a mobile game, and of course, Three Kingdoms came out, which became the fastest selling Total War game of all time, so it obviously worked. So it does seem like this is a fair excuse, that they just want to reach more people. I'm not sure that's really the way to go. Surely it cuts off a large amount of the audience that you already had, CA. You know, all the people that have been playing Total War so far have only been playing it on Steam, so the fact putting it exclusively on the Epic Store cuts a large amount of people out. I mean, nothing says more of expansion than cutting off the sole platform that built the franchise. While she may be going towards building a bigger audience, it could be counterproductive by cutting off a lot of people that don't want to go over to the Epic Store. But whether you like it or not, the Epic Games Store is important. Not only does it give players something else to experience, a new way of playing games, but also predominantly it gives competition to Steam. Steam is the best way to play games on PC. I don't think anyone can argue that. It's not perfect, it has some massive issues, but it's so developed and it's been here for so long, it's concreted itself as really the only proper way to play PC games on a mass scale. And whilst me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of what the Epic Store has to offer at the moment, it's important to be there to push Valve. And whilst in the last few years Steam hasn't really done anything to sort of push back and combat Epic Games' very aggressive stance and building itself up in the gaming store market, I think Valve has finally realised it needs to do something. And in the last couple of days it has taken massive steps which may break the Epic Games Store for good. I'll talk about more of that in my next video, but it looks like all of the games from EA and Origin are now coming over to Steam, which I think Valve would have a massive part in doing. But the way I see it, Troy is just another game snatched up by Epic's marketing team. At the end of the day, let's be honest, it's a hassle at most. Yeah, you might have to download a new launcher or wait a bit longer for mods, but it's not the end of the world. In fact, we're getting a free game, which is more than we've ever got from the Total War franchise. If you don't agree with the Epic Games Store practices, that's fine. You don't have to download it. At the end of the day, I'm not a massive fan of it being exclusive on the Epic Games Store. I think it just cuts out players and isn't very consumer friendly at all, but that's just how it is right now. And until Steam carry on these big pushes that they're doing, as we've seen in the last few days, that's just how it's going to be for the foreseeable future. I'm not sure there is anyone watching this video that would rather it be on the Epic Games Store over Steam. I'm sure most people would rather it was just on both. Creative Assembly have come out to say that this, so far, is a one-time deal. They have no plans for future Total War games to be exclusive on the Epic Games Store. Whether that's something they stick to, I guess we're going to find out. It will all come down to how successful or unsuccessful this launch is. I mean, the game's free, so it's going to fly off the shelves. Will the Epic Games Store be able to handle it? Well, they have said there are contingencies, but I would have thought there would be contingencies for GTA 5, and that still crashed the store. But it's just one of those things. We'll only know once the game is released, how it pans out, and how the future of Total War comes about. If this is something that's continued in the Total War franchise, I'm afraid it might split it completely. We might see massive drop-offs from the old fans, and whether CA think it's a worthy sacrifice to bring in new players from the Epic Games Store, I guess only time will tell with that. But I do feel like, for Epic at least, we're going to see a massive trend of more AAA franchises moving exclusively to that store. Not only does it carry on the narrative that we've seen of indie games going to the Epic Games Store exclusively, but this is the first time a AAA game has really been taken off Steam to be put on Epic Games Store. Maybe this is something we're going to see more and more in the future. But what do you think? I'd love to see your comments down below. And whilst I'm sure we can all agree competition is what Steam really needed for a kick up its backside, is the way Epic Games are going about it the most consumer-friendly way? And what does this mean for our AAA titles like Total War? Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. But until then, I will see you in the next one.